Okay, good morning, guys. Today is Friday, the 4th of December, I think. Another day of productivity for me and for you, hopefully. It's going to be a long weekend. I've got a lot of things planned, but I intend to get a couple of videos out today. And one of the videos today I'm going to do is to address some questions that I've always answered for the past 4 years, and I'm still answering. In fact, I just answered one from a former customer of mine. Due to the current CMCO, a lot of people are resorting to doing their own advertising and stuff. Okay, social media and all that. They think it's easy, and that's fine. Let them handle that. What irks me or irritates me the most is that everybody wants to handle all high-end editing, compositing stuff because they watch a YouTube video and it makes it look easy. And they tried it, they learned their best, but they still fail. Okay, and they kept finding excuses. They kept saying, "This is the problem, that is the problem," and all that. And the biggest irritation for me is when they start blaming their computer. They said they spent $3,000 and bought a computer, and it's not working. It's not doing its job. And after listening to his specifications and understanding more about his computer, I realized that he got conned. He paid $3,000 and bought a second-hand machine, which was decades, no, I won't say decades, but 2 or 3 generations old. Okay, and the reason he failed is because he did not understand or bother to learn about computer systems. So today's video is to address that issue. Buddy, if you're watching right now, I'm sorry, I may have to offend you, but you need to wake up and learn about this. For future students who want to get the best computer system out there, this video is for you as well. For those of you who already bought a computer system and want to improve the computer system, this video is for you as well. But the person who's going to benefit most from this video is a new owner, a person who has not bought a computer yet and is going to buy. He or she, you, will learn about the facts of computers and what makes a computer powerful. Now, full warning, this is going to be a boring subject if you are not tech savvy. If you are not tech related, if you are not tech interested, this is going to bore you. But I'm going to try to make it as interesting and as fun as possible. And I'm going to skip all the really technical details. I'm just going to focus on the core components of what makes a computer. Right? Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. If you can see it, that in essence is a computer. Now, if you want to just take a quick look at it, I recommend you pause the video right now and stare at it for a while. All right. Now, let's hold this up. This center box over here, which says CPU, stands for Central Processing Unit, otherwise known as the brain of your computer. Okay? When you buy a computer, if you look at all the advertisements and all the terminology, you will always see the word processor. And in this case, the processor refers to the brain. Okay? Now, there are essentially 3 main manufacturers of consumer-grade processors out there. Okay? First one is Intel. By the way, guys, I recommend you turn on captions for this video and let the translation run at the bottom in case you mishear what I'm saying. Okay? I will try to speak as slowly and clearly as I can so that it does a decent job translating it for you. Okay, so let's go back. Intel, Intel, is the first manufacturer. All right, the first processor, one kind. The second one is AMD. They're producing a second type. And the third one is Apple. Of course, Apple, they used to buy processors from other people, but now they have just come up with their own processor based on a handphone chip. All right, so you got these 3 consumer-grade processors. I use the word consumer, okay, because high-end servers, supercomputers, they use different kinds of technology. Okay, we're not interested in that. What we are interested in is computer chips or processors that you can buy in the market today. Okay, so 3 manufacturers, 3 kinds of processors, Each one is different. But I'm going to teach you how this works. Inside the processor, inside the chip, they have brains. Think of these brains as processing factories. All right, little brains that process information and do work for you. Okay, in the beginning, processors had one brain. They were called single core processors. CORE. All right. From now on, remember the word core because that refers to the processor itself. But manufacturers realized that they could put more brains in the same space. Okay? They could literally make a multi-core processor, a processor that could do many things at the same time. All right? That is basically called parallel processing. Okay? So they added a second core. Now the processor is called a dual core processor. So what do you think these greedy guys did? They kept adding cores. All right. Intel had a single core, it had a dual core, and then it had a quad core. 4. Okay. Now these are just for consumer processors, right? At the same time, Intel were developing processors for servers, factories, workstations, big supercomputers. And these machines had 16 cores, 20 cores, not 20, 24 cores, if I'm not mistaken, etc., etc., etc. So what the hell is a core? Like I said, it's a brain that processes information for you. So in theory, the more cores you have, the better, right? Well, right and wrong. Okay, here's how it works. If your processor has quad core and your software was written for a single core processor, nothing is going to happen. You're going to buy a quad core machine running a normal word processing software like Microsoft Word, and you are not going to see an improvement. Okay? The software that uses multi-core processing are big software like the Adobe Suite that you are using, graphic students, so what you're doing right now, this software will use it. 3D animation software will use it. DaVinci Resolve, video editing software, will use it. Okay? In other words, any software that requires a lot of computational power was written to take advantage of multi-core processors. All right. So you watching this video right now, you're asking yourself, I do Microsoft Word. Doesn't matter then, does it? Buy the cheapest computer, the cheapest processor that you want, and use it. All right? If you're using Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, surfing the internet, single core, dual core, quad core, irrelevant. Okay? What is relevant is how fast these cores work. Okay? And you calculate the speed of cores in terms of megahertz, millions of hertz, millions of frequencies, not miles per hour. Huh? We're talking of cycles. How fast can a processor do a single task? Okay. Now, in the supercomputer sense of the word, they use the phrase flop, a teraflop, a teraflop, a trillion cycles, a trillion transactions per second. Ours is not a supercomputer. Okay, it can do some pretty good work, but it's not in that range. So the simplest way for us to calculate speed of a processor is to look at the megahertz. Now, some processors are 1.6 megahertz, some processors are 4 megahertz, some processors have turbo hertz. I don't know lah. Okay, which one is better? Obviously, the bigger megahertz, the better. All right. So let's recap. Many cores, single core. If you have a single core with a high processor speed, your Microsoft Word will speed up. If you are using Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere Pro, DaVinci, any of these graphic design software, single core tak cukup. All right, it'll be very, very slow. So you need to buy a multi-core processor. All right, now this is the very scary part. The more cores you have, the more expensive the processor gets. When I say expensive, I'm talking multiples of amounts. Okay. So here's the magic question: what is enough? The answer is very simple. If you're using Adobe Premiere Pro, go to the adobe.com website, type in minimum requirements Adobe Premiere Pro CC 201, 7, or 9. Type it in that search engine. You will get a page that tells you what are the minimum specifications required to run Adobe Premiere Pro. Let me repeat a key word here: minimum. Okay? If you buy a computer that matches that minimum requirement, your machine will run. It isn't going to fly. Understand this, huh? It is bare minimum. That means it will work. When you start introducing complex tasks, it will hang. Right. So here's what I recommend you do. Instead of typing minimum requirements Adobe Premiere Pro, I would like you to type in optimum requirements Adobe Premiere Pro. Got it? And what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot of feedback from people around the world telling you, I'm a graphic designer and I need this, 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 this. I'm a 3D animator and I need this, 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 this. Your job is to find a requirement or a specification that matches your task. If you're a graphic designer, yeah, by all means, follow the graphic designer's advice. If you're a 3D compositor, a 3D animator, follow their advice. Okay? This video is going to explain one thing at a time to you. Today it's only about processors, all right, so that you can make a judgment call, all right? At the end of this video, I'm also going to explain to you why laptops are not recommended for professional work. So stay tuned and we'll get there. All right, so we've gotten to the point of multi-core. Let me recap. Single core, multi-core, speed in terms of megahertz. Okay, right. Now things get a little bit interesting. Before AMD came up, Intel was the king of the hill. It was inventing all the multi-core processors used in the majority of computers in the world today. Okay? And Intel was running off Microsoft Windows. Hand in hand, Windows, Intel. These two jokers together made billions and billions of dollars, making Bill Gates the richest man, or now third richest man, I think, in the world. Okay? Right. Then, a few years back, Advanced Micro Devices, or AMD, came up. They suddenly found a formula and they invented their version of their chip, multi-core chip, that was cheaper to produce and had more cores. Okay? So now you've got Intel and AMD fighting in the marketplace. Intel is losing. AMD is winning. All right? And they are winning simply because they just changed the way they make their chips. Okay? So now you have AMD processors that are cheaper, have more cores, really, really a lot more cores, and have slightly better speeds. Okay? So here's the question. Which one do you buy? The more expensive Intel processors or the slightly cheaper AMD processors? The answer is up to you. I have used both, and as a businessman, as a solo entrepreneur, cost is always important to me. So I have always chosen to buy the cheaper processor. Okay? Now here's the trick. I don't have one computer. I have many. All right? Cheaper individual workstations, but more workstations. And the reason for that is quite simple. One system dedicated to one task. If I'm doing Photoshop and graphic design, that's one computer designed for graphic design. Okay? If I'm doing 3D animation, that's one workstation just for 3D. And if I'm doing video editing and compositing, that's one computer workstation just for that. Each of these computers are built differently. They have different specifications. but each one was optimized based on cost per processor cycle. Oh, big word. Whoa. Let's simplify that for you. The graphic design machine has just enough power to do its job well. If I were to take my video job and do it on this graphic station, it will die. Okay? Now, this philosophy is something that you guys will not be able to afford. I don't know. Maybe you've got lots of money. Awesome. But if you don't have that money and if you're not doing things like this professionally and earning a living from it, you are going to try to do everything on one machine. And you will curse. You will curse because no machine can do that. Okay? The only way that your single laptop can do all the jobs is to make it the most powerful laptop you can buy. And in today's market, we're looking at 7,000, 10,000. All the machines that you've come to see me in the past and you've bought 2007 and all that, and it runs fine for schoolwork. Yeah, we don't use that. It's not good enough for us. We need a lot more power, a lot more ancillary hardware. We need bigger screens. We need a bigger package. Which brings us to the next point, package. It's already 16 minutes in the video and I don't want to go any further. So I'm just going to end this segment by talking about the processor names and the processor types. And I would like you to go and YouTube a comparison video. You can type Intel versus AMD and look at the website and you will see the specifications. Okay. So here are the processor names, nomenclature for Intel. You've got the i3, the i5, the i7, the i9, and the Xeons, Xeons. That is at this moment what is available. In 3 months or 6 months' time, all that can change. All right, if we follow Moore's law, 6 months, new stuff appears. Don't worry about it. Instead, what I want you to do is I want you to get familiar with the technical specifications of these processors. i3 is a dual core with hyperthreading. New word. i5 is, I think the new i5s are quad core with 8 hyperthreads. And the i7s are quad cores as well, 8 hyperthreads, higher megahertz, higher processing speeds. What the hell is hyperthreading? Well, it's simple. Intel started with a single core, and then they added more cores, right? But they found a trick. They found a way to hack those cores using software. And what is the hack? They could double the power of each core and virtually turning it into 2 processors. So now if you buy a quad core hyper-threaded processor, you are getting 8 processors. Isn't that awesome? That's fantastic, man. 8 processors. Your computer is now going to run twice as fast as it used to. Okay? Here's the problem. AMD have now their own version of hyperthreads, but their core count is madness. AMD chips now have 8 1632 processors. Core, which basically means it becomes 32 threads. Oh my goodness gracious me. Look at my eyeballs. 32 processors. Do you know how fast a 32 processor is? Let me tell you something. When I used my first Threadripper, I did not want to leave the room. Ever. Yeah. And it's hard to impress me, right? But when I was using that machine, it blew my mind. It blew my mind to the point that I wanted to sell everything I own to buy that processor. Unfortunately, I didn't. Or rather, fortunately, I didn't. It's just too expensive, number one. Number two, I believe in Moore's law. In 6 months, the price is going to drop. Which brings me to my final point for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you are buying a laptop or a desktop PC today, do not regret tomorrow. It is going to be obsolete between 6 months and 8 months' time. That's just the way it is, baby. So buy your computer right now. Make sure you use it for the next 5 years. Earn the money back that you spent by doing projects. The pain in your heart won't be as strong. If you're buying an expensive computer and all you're doing is Microsoft Word, I will slap you. But you're students. You don't know what you want. Instead, you're coming in with an open mind and an open heart, and you say, I will buy the cheapest computer, and then later on, as I improve, I would upgrade my computer. Wrong. Laptops cannot be upgraded. That's my final. Remember my first question, why laptop and desktop? Yeah, so here is the deal. Laptops cannot be upgraded, guys. What you buy, you're stuck with for the next 5 years. If it's underpowered, best of luck. The only way to upgrade a laptop is to take it, sell it, and buy a new one. Remember Moore's Law? Right. You buy a laptop, you wait 6 months, your laptop is now half the price. Huh? Yes, I have cried. You will cry when you understand this concept. So, last words on the topic. Why laptop is a no-no for us? Well, simple. A desktop machine you can build. You want more RAM? Open it up, stick in more RAM. If you buy a laptop, you can put in RAM, but they limit you to 2 slots. That means you can put 2 pieces of RAM. If I buy a desktop, I can buy a riser card. I can put 30 pieces of RAM inside at any time. All right? The graphics card, okay? The graphics card is something that's inside a processor that handles all the graphics and animation. If you buy a laptop, the graphics card is fixed. That's it. You can't upgrade your graphics card. But in a desktop machine, not only can I change the graphics card, I can have 8 monitors. And if I feel I want to upgrade it next year, I just pull out the card, sell it, and put a new one in. Okay? What's the trade-off? Well, the trade-off is this. I can't carry a desktop and go on the bus and do my work. So a laptop is a laptop. It's meant to be used for mobile purposes. If you buy a laptop, that is your key criteria. If you're buying a laptop for hardcore video production work, I'm going to tell you straight away, you're not doing hardcore production work. Sorry. Hardcore production work is hardcore production work. You need a high-end workstation with a RAID NAS hard access. You need gigabit Ethernet. You need multiple monitors, calibrated monitors. I could go on about that, but suffice it to say that the machine you think you want right now is what you need for school. It's what you need to do simple 30-second vlogs and blogs. Fine. But if you are intending to work in the industry, or if you are already doing really high-end stuff, go and sell your laptop or save up money and build a desktop of your own. Now, before I go, the last one and the most interesting news. Apple has come up with a brand new processor. All right, and the processor is supposed to be so good that it can process 4K, 8K video real time. So what? My desktop machine has been doing that from day one, and it's still cheaper than a Mac. Again, guys, if you buy a Mac, you're buying it for convenience. Please don't tell me you're buying it because it's the most powerful thing on the planet, because it isn't. A workstation that was built for video editing is. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to show you this clipboard again because I'm going to come back to it in later videos talking about the different parts of the computer. Today, we talk about processors, the different kinds of processor. By the way, I didn't mention AMD. Yeah? Intel is i3, i5, i7. AMD is Ryzen, Ryzen. And you've got Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, and God knows what other Ryzen that is coming up. Your job is to read up on them, find out the cores, find out the threads, find out the processor speeds, and do a comparison between all of these models. Find the processor that best suits your budget. Budget, I say budget. Right? Everybody has a budget. Okay, professionals, their budget is higher. That's it. But if you're not intending to do professional video work and you just want to do Microsoft Word, get the i3, get the cheapest laptop. It's fine. I do a lot of my correspondence using a tablet. Works for me. And it's more mobile than a laptop. Tablet, little pen, Bluetooth keyboard, fantastic. Okay, guys, so thank you very much. That's the first video for today. Later, I won't be doing this today. A whole day of just conceptual talking is boring. I'll go find some other piece of equipment to explain and maybe a little bit of software. Adios.